до частини запитань і відповідей. Отже, пані Оксана, пане Майкле, вам слово.
Свій досвід про те, яким чином він дотичний і до практики, і до викладання теорії, і до формування політики в цій сфері. Майкл?
Hello, can you hear me? Do you have audio sound?
Yes, we do hear you.
Okay, great. So we're going to start these slides now.
Yeah, you just can tell a few words about yourself, okay? Just about your experience and about your Red Cross and the other affiliations, International Federation of Social Workers, and etc., and how you are related to social innovations.
Пані Оксано, буквально я вас перерву, вибачайте, будь ласка, декілька хвилин для технічного налаштування перекладачів і далі ви продовжите. Перепрошую.
Okay, so they ask for, yes, just 1 or 2 minutes to switch on to translation services, okay? So they've got something to switch on to.
Okay.
Пані Оксана, будь ласка, продовжуйте.
You can start, yeah, so they have the internet. Okay, just make your speech available to everyone who is with us right now.
Hello, everybody. I greet you from the United States. I am in New Jersey, right outside of New York City. And it is very early this morning. And this is a picture of my campus at Monmouth University, where I'm an associate professor of social work for over 10 years. I had the fortunate opportunity to be in Ukraine this past year on a Fulbright scholarship, teaching at Naukma in the School of Social Work, and that's how I met our Dr. Boyko there. And I also was working with Red Cross here in the United States, and I'm a disaster mental health specialist and leader, as well as do teaching and training. One of the areas that I've been involved with in these past years has been about social innovations and social enterprise in the United States. It's becoming very popular to introduce this topic into the curriculum of social work. And we've done that at Monmouth University, where we now have a course in social innovations that is part of the core curriculum for our Master in Social Work program. And I had the good fortune, I think I heard Professor Boyko was talking about how we taught our class together, and we merged our ideas from the West, from the United States, and I learned a lot about the wonderful, incredible creativity and innovation going on in Ukraine. And I have to say that there's so much activity going on. It's very exciting for people like us to be able to see and participate and to socialize more young people into this idea of social enterprise. highlighted in the green.
діяльність, то ви
So
можете
if
побачити це виділено зеленим на
if
моїй.
we inspire young people by engaging them
Якщо ми
in
будемо
science
надихати молодих
programs,
людей
then
до
they will
успішних наукових
have a
програм,
well-rounded life
вони
capability,
будуть
self-confidence, and
мати кращі
communication.
можливості в
The end.
житті, вони будуть більш
Let's
впевнені
look at another example for the next slide.
спілкуватися. Зараз подивимося ще один приклад за наступного слайду.
So, a famous Grameen Bank, which is now worldwide.
Грамен
So
Банк,
their mission is
банк
to
Грамен,
enable the
банк,
poor,
який відомий у всьому світі,
especially the
який
poorest,
допомагає
to create a world without
верстам
poverty.
населення, особливо
So they
найбіднішим,
focus on extending microloans to poor women, is how they started out. And then what is the logic of that tie
для бідних верст
from the
населення,
mission to their program?
які
Let's look at the
заповнені
next
їхні
slide
місії
and see
та
if we can pick
програми.
out
Ви на
the if
наступному
and then
слайді
statement
можете
based on
побачити
their mission.
їхнє формулювання «якщо то».
Next slide, please.
Наступний слайд, будь ласка.
So here we see
Отже, тут ми можемо
one of
побачити
their quotes, right? Well, my deep belief is that
цитат
if a person
Грамен
has
Банку,
access to capital,
що
so if a
люди
person has access
тут
to
доступ до
capital,
капіталу. Якщо у
then
бідних людей буде доступ до капіталу,
she will be able to set up a micro
вони
enterprise,
можуть
generate profits,
розпочати
pay back the
мікропідприємства,
loan,
отримувати
and move her
прибутки,
family out of
виплатити
poverty.
кредити та
So it's a very
вивести.
simple sentence, but it
Тобто це
captures
дуже
what you
просте
need
речення,
to
але
gain
в цьому
as
місці
an outcome if a
прагнення
certain
і те, що
program,
можна
idea,
досягти,
or
якщо
intervention
буде
occurs.
запроваджена певна
And you need
програма
to have
або
built this
конкретна ідея.
framework pretty solid
Є.
so that
Для
when
того,
you
щоб
come
це
to
стало
making your
можливим,
assessment,
потрібно добре
you're going to see if
пропрацювати, то
the
має
if
бути чіткі
did
рамки
actually
для того, щоб ця частина,
work out to be a
якщо
then.
належним чином
Let me just
перетворилася
look at one
так
more example.
тоді.
The next slide,
Зараз
please.
поглянемо на ще один приклад. Наступний слайд, будь ласка.
So, the mission of a project called D-Light,
Місія проекту, який
and they're dedicated to
Light,
providing
полягає в
distributing
тому,
solar
щоб
panels and other solar
вирвати
energy
використання
solutions for
енергії
households
та
and
панелей
small businesses that
малих
transform the way people all over the world
малих
can
домогосподарства
pay and
та
use
малих
energy.
підприємств,
So their theory of
люди
changes, if we
могли
see,
використовувати
is if we provide solar energy solutions,
твердження таке. Якщо
then
ми
we can
надаватимемо
transform
терапії
the way
сонячній
that people
енергетиці,
use and
тоді
pay
ми
for energy.
змінити спосіб
Then those people will
люди
be empowered by the freedom and
електроенергії.
improved quality of life that comes with access to reliable, affordable, and clean social energy. Solar
Тоді
energy.
ми можемо
So
отримати
here you see
дійсно
that an if and then
енергію, яка
statement,
буде
and then you'd be
чистою.
able to measure if you were able
Можемо
and
також
how well you were able to meet the then.
наскільки ми змогли досягти
Let's move to the next slide.
тоді. І переходимо до наступного слайду.
So we did our if and then theory of change.
Вже
And now
ми
we're going to start to look at the idea of proposing value
тоді, і зараз
and how
переходимо
do
до
we
частини
actually
пропонування цінності.
operationalize what we talk
Яким
about
чином
value.
ми
So if you think about it, right,
роботу з
social enterprises are all about delivering value to a wide range of
соціальними
stakeholders
підприємствами
and to
надають
society.
цінність
To be
широкій
successful, a social enterprise must be
суспільству. Для
clear
того,
on the
щоб це
value that
підприємство
they bring to others.
було успішним, воно повинно
Think of it as coming up with the
показувати якусь
DNA
процесу
or unique recipe that makes your
пов'язану
organization
з цим
distinctive,
унікальним
successful, and
унікальним
uniquely
рецептом
valuable to
успіху
others.
вашого підприємства,
Let's go to
яке
the next
є
slide.
дуже корисним для інших.
So, in ways of creating social
Отже,
value,
створюючи соціальні
one of the authors that we drew from
з
Sin equals
авторів,
Kyiv-Mohyla,
з якими ми
you can
консультувалися,
get
ви
this
можете
information
побачити
from,
це внизу
that
слайд,
social value
джерела, з
creation,
яких
they
ми
define
взяли
it as bringing the desired social change or creating social impact or a social outcome through a resolution of social problems or causes. Now, this can look like many things. It includes a wide range of impacts, including increasing awareness about something or an issue, empowering the beneficiaries to do something that they wish should be done or changed in society, creating and providing socioeconomic benefits to them, impacting their lives, bringing a change in their perception, attitudes, and behaviors, changes in norms. So these can occur at the institutional level, the community level, national, or international arenas. And social entrepreneurs create social values that benefit people whose urgent needs and reasonable needs are not being met by other means. So here we are building the case for social value that we are later going to be able to report on how much of an impact did we make in that area. Let's look at our next slide, please. So concept like value and worth are
Такі
very
концепції, як цінність та вартість, дуже важко визначити, та їх важко повідомляти людям. І для того, щоб це зробити, потрібно знайти собі групу підтримки тих, хто готові до вас долучатися, хто підтримують ваші погляди. І давайте глянемо ще на наступний слайд, де ми можемо побачити ключові елементи цінності для соціального підприємства. І ми можемо побачити тут 4 основних елементи. Отже, ми з'ясували, що ціннісна пропозиція соціального підприємства складається з 4 елементів. Це цінність наша. Того, щоб соціальне підприємство було ефективним, та для того, щоб його вплив був максимальним. Тобто ми дивимося на цінність з точки зору соціального впливу, також з точки зору фінансового впливу та операційного впливу та цінність для клієнта. Якщо ми повернемося зараз до попереднього слайду, то я хочу вам ще раз показати, що тут має бути цінність для клієнта. Отже, цінність для клієнта в тому, що ми таким чином вирізняємося від наших конкурентів. Тобто,
their needs and wants and ensuring that they come back. Remember, customers or consumers are the people or organizations that pay for our goods and services, not necessarily the same as our beneficiaries. So financial value goes to the heart of how we are achieving our mission in a financially sound, sustainable, and largely self-sufficient way. It explains how we are funding from others effectively and ways that encourage self-reliance and not independence. And if we look at the third box, operational value, and that comes from the ethical stance that our organization takes and the way that it behaves responsibly. We can demonstrate this in the way that we are governed, how we support our employees, how we source supplies, how we treat the environment, and the ways we work with communities and reinvest our profits for the common good. And then we have social value, and that's about the ways that our work solves pressing social or environmental problems and brings positive change for the people, family, and communities that we are in service to. It describes the value of the social outcomes and social impact that we create through our enterprise activities. So by delivering on these 4 aspects of social enterprise is therefore emerging as an increasingly attractive way of doing business. So let's look at the next slide about why social enterprise delivers more value. So if we continue this line of thinking, we can begin to describe why our social enterprise delivers more value than alternative ways of doing business and improving society. So most conventional businesses focus on creating and then also measuring financial value and customer value, the basics of commercial value proposition. In addition, a purpose-led or mission-driven enterprise seeks to deliver and measure the value they create by putting social responsibility at the heart of what they do, operational value. Although successful nonprofits and charities work to change the world and deliver value in many of the same ways as social enterprise, they rarely do so with an ongoing reliance on grant subsidy, not the same as compelling financial value or a social enterprise. So social enterprise then knocks the ball out of the park, as we say. It delivers value in multiple and in complementary ways. Okay, next slide. So we're looking at measuring and demonstrating this value that we propose. It's really a combination of these elements in various quantities and proportions that describe the value of any social enterprise. The building blocks described will enable you to map out and describe the full story of the value created by your organization and to drill down to show a balanced picture of the results. So here you can see the fleshed out components of each of these. And if you look at the social value area, you can see that some of the things are about social equity, economic prosperity, cultural vitality, democratic engagement, community well-being, environmental sustainability. So these are different ways that this can be operationalized. So it's that package that you can measure and demonstrate value, which is quite important to start up and to maintain. Okay, next slide. Okay, and now we're going to have Professor Boyko talk about the what of social impact for social entrepreneurs. I don't hear you.
Продукти або послуги, конкретний продукт або конкретна послуга. Далі.
We're talking about the product or service with the revenue. And by revenue, we mean the distribution of revenue. Which part of the revenue is spent on a particularly social value? And through the employees, usually by means of employment, as for social enterprises, quite often the employees are those who cannot otherwise be employed. Then answer to the question why. So now I told you what, and Michael gave you answers to the question how and what we meant by measuring social impact. So if we were to respond to the question why of those social entrepreneurs who work hard, who overcome barriers in different countries, say Ukraine, the country with the traditional economy. Probably one of the main reasons why social entrepreneurs should do it would share the following reasons. If you measure your social impact, you will better see the social value that can later be communicated. Secondly, it is the way in which you, as the social entrepreneurs, communicate to all the stakeholders and the broader public. And that's the way you share your success story. That is something that helps you to improve trust from the society. And you lay the groundwork for sustainable partnership. Besides, that is a good way to attract investors so that the investors see you as a reliable partner. And one more reason why you should measure your social impact. This is due to the fact that it helps you to apply and to win in tenders. You can get public contracts, and those could be service contracts or contracts for manufacturing certain goods. So if you measure your social impact, that enables you and community you live in, a community that you have influence on, to have sustainable development, to provide for better sustainability in your work and sustainability in the work of your enterprise, because you clearly see what is the impact on the community, what is the impact on your targeted groups, how you solve the issue, and how you could solve it in another way. All of those ideas would come to you after you check what you've done and after you measured your impact. Besides, it helps to mitigate the negative impact of your activities. And of course, I can list many more reasons that would be also important, but I believe that it is worth mentioning mindful social entrepreneur. The entrepreneur who is well conscious of his or her activities. Since if you know what the impact of your activities is, those people who surround you, those people who are the consumers of your services or product, and the community you are influencing on, they are all sure you're working in good faith. They are well informed and they are supporting you. They assist. And how do we measure that social impact? Responding to that, we would like to tell you that there are over 30 tools how to measure impact at the moment, and I'm sure that the list is not exhaustive. We can try and group them, and we will see that there are these groups of tools. The first group, this is something that is probably known to Ukrainians, that is non-Ukrainian social entrepreneurs, social reporting and social audit. That is the technique that is quite popular in Western countries, and this is something that is gaining momentum in Ukraine as well. The next type of the tools includes logistic models. It means that there are tables to fill out with specific indicators, and they help us as social entrepreneurs to get our work in a structured way. First of all, we see the indicators and we check whether we have these indicators or not, and we also measure whether we attain them or not. And here comes the third type of tools, but it's more of a mathematical nature. That is the formula that probably you have seen in the reports, especially in international reports, especially for those who work with the Western social enterprises. The social return on investment. That's the formula that enables you to measure the social impact from the point of view of their influence on the society and also on the environment and also your economic impact. As you know, there are various publications in different languages, mostly in English, but there are publications available in other languages that cover this model and they are practically applied. And we know that in other countries, some educational facilities offer training courses, long or short learning training courses of the application of this formula for impact measurement and how you could use that later on in your reports when reporting back to public. This formula usually contains the value of the social impact, your seed investment, and then you divide it by your seed investment and you multiply it by 100%. You know, that is actually the formula that requires a 1-day workshop, separate workshop. But to sum it up, there are 3 types of tools that are available worldwide at the moment. If you ask us what can we use today if we are social entrepreneurs, you can use the theory of change. That's 100% certain. This is something that Michael mentioned at the beginning. And that is what is helping you when deciding where you are headed and which indicators to use to find out whether you have reached your destination or not. If you work as the NGO or CSO, you usually are supposed to have the strategy. And in that strategy, you have various indicators. The expected outcome of your activities, the expected impact of your activities. So you include that information into the reports, and it helps you to check whether you are moving in the right direction or not. And the tool which is the most popular at the moment, that is the tool that is um, covering the social impact we are all trying to achieve the sustainable development goals. If you are the real social entrepreneurs, you are well aware of social development goals, and you have the examples of their application and implementation in Ukraine.
If we see the slide, this is from the Harvard Review, and we, together with Michael, decided to show you some scientific infographics for that purpose. In terms of the scope of impact measurement, you will see the theory of change going first. This is the simplest thing you can do as a social entrepreneur. Next comes, next come some indicators. Further on comes more serious data collection work when you have to carry out surveys, collect data from the target groups you've been aiming at to effectively evaluate and measure the work performed. The most complexity we'll see in points 4 and 5 with thorough research, with control groups, with historical data for specific lines of activities. These data are amalgamated, and the last point is randomized controlled trials, the most expensive and the hardest one to, but they provide for very good measure of social impact. I don't think we have it at the moment in Ukraine, but it remains to be seen whether we'll be able to afford it in the coming future. Speaking of the group of logical framework for measurements, one of the most popular models is the one called in English input output outcome impact model. The first one is about what we have invested. The output is about specific results from our activity, what we produce, or what happens owing to us, events, measures, etc. Something tangible, something you can touch if you want. The third column is about results to show how it affects your target audience. And the final point is the impact per se, to say about ways in which your activities change something in and around your target audience. If we have a closer look at the table, well, we are short on time, indeed, too short to go into much detail. But yeah, actually, it could make a topic for a nice lengthy workshop. But anyway, we have a tool set to do those measurements. If we check the last column about impact, it requires qualitative measurements. How we can do it? We can have some empiric studies. We can do assessments of situation before the start of our activities and after it. Going further, we can describe another type of measurement you can use to measure your social impact to properly inform the wide public. In this case, it is reports, reporting and reports. The thing that is component of social audits and respective, respective reports. And I think Michael. Tom's shoes. І, власне, якщо подивитися на графік
consumer or customer in the impact report. So they call it our impact, your impact. So it's really about what the customer is doing, and it makes the customer feel good in terms of contributing by buying their product. So if you go to the next slide, we'll look at Tom's Shoes, and they're a for-profit company based in California. And they were founded in 2006 by an entrepreneur from Texas. He was actually traveling through Argentina, which is where their logo came from, sort of the Argentine flag. And he saw that so many young children were not able to go to school because they could not afford shoes. And one of the requirements for going to school would be that you'd have to have foot coverings to be able to do that. And so he was so touched by such a simple thing that he thought would really be helping people get their education and be able to have a way out of poverty, that he designed this idea of making very low cost, easy, basic shoes, and that each customer that buys a pair of shoes, that there would be an equal number of pair of shoes given to someone that needs it. And it started out in this project where he was working with a village and town in Argentina, and then it now has spread worldwide and has a big footprint, and they have a website as well. I'm going to try to share my screen so that you could see what their impact statement looks like. Otherwise, you have to follow that link. Let me see if this will work. Okay. Can you see that screen? Anyone tell me? I can't see you, so you just have to tell me. Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, we see.
Great. Okay. So here you can see they have a full report that's about 40 pages long with lots of graphics, and then they have just highlights. So you can see that they looked at their 2019 report that they've just posted about all the different kinds of programs that they were actually able to subsidize by increasing their business. So not only do they now sell shoes, they went into eyeglassware with the same scheme, and then other projects. And here they're showing their social impact in different areas, in equality of opportunity for girls to also complete their education, as well as boys, looking after productive lives, including mental health, physical safety, anti-violence campaigns. So for every $3 we make, they give one away, and then it shows all of the different ways that they can do it. So hopefully I can show you a little clip of that.
At Tom's, we've always been in business to improve lives. In the beginning, that meant for every pair of shoes we sold, we'd give a pair away. But then things changed.
You led us to new and important causes, and we felt like we could bring even more to the table.
So we made some changes of our own.
We started to give shoes and grants.
Now for every $3 we make, we give $1 away.
Each year, we set aside at least a third of our profits.
And then we give. Guided by our very own giving team,
Our partners,
And the causes you care most about. We give to organizations that make us feel safe.
Make us feel well.
make us feel equal.
Because our vision of a better tomorrow
is one where humanity thrives.
And with every purchase, you help bring us that much closer.
So you can see in just 13 years that they've been in business, where they started out with just one pair of shoes you buy, and one pair of shoes would go to someone that needs it, to a big, thriving social business, and that they were in the beginning going out to villages and doing these campaigns, and now what they're doing is, because of their success, they are spreading that success and the value by partnering with about 35 non-governmental organizations and projects around the world now. And so you can see that they went from a small one pair of shoes to now a huge social business that is thriving. And really, they keep their impact by reminding the customer base that they are doing good by buying what they would need for their everyday life, and that they've expanded, and that they've actually helped about 30 plus other non-governmental organizations and programs also thrive because of that. Okay, so now I will let
Thank you very much.
back to the why.
Thank you very much, Michael. Yes, thank you, Professor CRONIN, for sharing. Я би хотіла ще коротенько, ви всі знаєте, оскільки ті українські учасники, які долучилися,
Just briefly, because Ukrainian participants who have joined the conference, potentially they might have heard something about the organizations. I'm going to mention those international participants of this event might be interested in hearing more about them. Maybe you could also come onto the website to see more of these organizations there. Well, Tom's Shoes, it's a rather well-known and reputable organization, and we use this example time over again in many of our training events as the best practice example. Speaking of the Ukrainian context, probably all of you heard in terms of social impact and social value created, heard of the Veterana Pizza Network, the one that was established back in 2015 in Ukraine. They provide employment opportunities for ex-soldiers who had participated in anti-terrorist organization. They share some of the profits with the Association of ATO veterans, and they provide further type of support to this ATO community. Here's the website of this Veterano Pizza chain. They also have a social platform called Veterano Group. Moving on, I could give you the name of the Museum in Darkness. At third in the night, it was established in 2017. All of the tours are done in darkness at night, and they are focusing on vulnerable groups with special needs. They have their guides with visual impairments. They want to get rid of widespread stigma of the people with eyesight impairments. Another example of a rather trendy thing worldwide and also in Ukraine, it's about upcycling, which is a combination of a variety of values. Check this shop, which is called Sure Thing, Yasna Rich. Their activities are first of all aimed at reducing the amount of waste that would inevitably end up in a dump site. What they do, they collect clothing of decent quality, the second-hand one from the previous users, and they try to do something about it, also delivering it to other charitable organizations that help disadvantaged people, people in crisis situation, women from vulnerable groups, lone mothers, IDPs, etc. 25% of their profits are slated for socially important initiatives of importance for local communities. Just to quote from them and to make an example from organizations in Ukraine and abroad, they say that we do believe that we are creating a sustainable community whenever we support each other in our team, when we offer social initiatives, and when we are able to create ethical goods and services, expanding our experience across the world.
У підсумку нашої презентації, наших таких
At the end of our presentation, of this presentation of our successes, I'd like to tell you that social impact is first and foremost about better accessibility, about social inclusion, about creating and offering better opportunities to the widest possible range of people, about environmental consciousness, about sustainable impact of everything you do. With big thanks for having us. We are ready to take your questions. We are a bit over the allotted time, but definitely, given the wealth of information that surely requires lots of pondering, we'd still like to take some of your questions if there are any. There are some questions on the YouTube channel, but I'd still like to give the floor to Olga and Olena from our Zoom participants. I would like you, Olga, Olena, to switch on your mics to announce yourself on Zoom. Olena?
Пані Ольга.
Okay, Olga. Okay, Olena is here.
Дуже багато питань. Чому? Тому що я сама соціальна.
I have lots of questions being a social entrepreneur myself. Lots of what I've heard and seen here. I tried to jot notes, to scribble something of this from this experience. Uh, Thank you so much for that.
Десь, ну, це, знаєте, побільше цього всього дізнатися.
It's a question, not a question, rather a plead with you. We'd like to know more about that. We definitely need tons of that information.
Добре, я дякую.
But did you have a question? Well, it was a comment. Okay, thank you. Olga,
Дякую за таку можливість, за цікаву дискусію.
thank you for this interesting discussion. I work at the USA project on economic support of this part of Ukraine. I know of a lot of donor projects working to develop social enterprise on differing scales. I'd like to know more about ways to measure social impact. Maybe you could give us information where we can get more information. Maybe some resources, or maybe some training institutions, universities. Maybe there are some projects to have more on social impact measurement. I do understand it merits a separate discussion, but still.
Тому що я ще хочу додати, що це дуже важливо, тому що ми всі
Because really this is important. We tend to speak a lot about social enterprise, about the need to have expand, but in terms of measuring exactly what it is about. You know, a project that is very conscious about measuring the outcomes of the project. I think this topic merits more limelight, if you want. Okay, thank you. Dear Michael, dear Oksana, could you give us more information about where we could get more information about social impact, social measuring tools? Maybe you have some program or course at your university that we could use maybe by registering there. I don't know.
Michael.
Could you have your mic on, please?
I didn't understand what you're saying.
Sorry, the question was about how to do social measurement. What are the tools? What are possibilities of getting more information about it? Maybe your university has something to offer, information, training course.
Оксана, можливо, тоді ви почнете?
I think yes. Let me answer then. Let me start answering because the translation was yes a bit of a delay. The question was in general that this is a very interesting topic and how it. So in terms of who is doing what in this area, are there any experts? Are there any special courses or training or education provided within different settings? And where can the officer from USAID program on economic sustainability? Коротко відповім про те, що власне є, якщо ми кажемо про зарубіжний і європейський,
I can start by giving a short answer to that. Speaking of our and international experience of social impact measuring, there are bigger institutions like Social Enterprise Institute, other institutions, consortiums of organizations in Canada and the United States working on the topic. There are EU-based projects, speaking of Europe, which specifically aim on that. There are some guidelines and manuals on social impact measurement in English. I was able to see just a smaller publication, like 15 pages long, translated into Ukrainian, and definitely it's worth a separate meeting. With Michael, we do have a list of such organizations involved in that. For sure, if we check the Ukrainian sources, you may only find some pages mentioned somewhere. Like we had a manual for university professors on a range of topics, including social enterprise matters. It was published with financial support from the US. It's called Simple Social Entrepreneurship by Alina Butarnikova. They have quite succinct information on that. But if you want to go in depth into the topic, there are bigger manuals, up to 300 pages long, on social impact and ways of measuring it. You, as an organization, may want to have some specific indicators to fit your purpose, and you may also want to measure it properly to see if you are making the social impact. Still more, that the general policy of donors operating in Ukraine is that even before going to the funding stage, they want to see some theory of change behind the project. They want to see some specific indicators, understandable for both social entrepreneurs, local communities, understandable for the donor itself to see whether it is achievable and whether it has been achieved. From here, also the need of social reports and social reporting. Then we have the research and researchers, and these require money. You need to include them in your financial proposal while bidding for a grant. So definitely it needs a separate workshop or seminar for that to have a more detailed coverage. I think we should meet separately to have a detailed discussion on that. Thank you. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity to put another question from YouTube. I think either of you, our trainers, can answer it, either you, Oksana, or Michael. And the question is, I reshaped it a bit, but anyway. In your opinion, what are the priorities for social entrepreneur during the pandemic time in terms of social impact? With social distancing, with different quarantine measures in place, what should be the priorities for social entrepreneurs who still want to make the social impact but have to operate in these conditions? What to look for, to account for? Maybe Oksana, we may start with you, and Michael.
I'm not able to hear the translation, unfortunately, so I'm not sure. I think the last question was where you can find training programs for this. Was that?
Can I translate then?
Yes,
I'll
please.
just brief you, okay?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
I'll brief you right now. So the question was from Dmitro and from the participants about what should we take into consideration while doing social entrepreneurship in COVID. During COVID pandemic time.
Okay, the audio cut out, but I think it was if there are any special considerations in terms of our social entrepreneurship during COVID times. Is that what the question was? If so, I think what it's and what we're learning now is I'm teaching a social innovations course in Monmouth University, and everything that we used to do, it used to be a course that was 3 hours a week live, and we had people coming. We went to different places to visit. As they learned, they did their own social enterprise projects. They were mentored, and I have been putting all of my energy into how to figure out how to build that excitement online. And so our guest speakers are coming into Zoom. And so that's how we're able to do that. And I think that now our students are doing projects, so they're trying to develop their own social enterprise proposals. They are actually thinking right now about how to translate this to a video digital platform. And I think that it's stretching all of our creativity and knowledge about technology and the use of technology to help us in a social good or social value. And there are many technology projects that are specifically social businesses that are really we could learn from right now. So it's really about being even more creative and thinking outside the box to get things to a digital platform to do things safely. Certainly, Veterano Pizza. So I was really, really excited about that, and I miss them terribly now that I'm back in the United States. And I just, saw that I have their menu because I used to call them, and during the quarantine, I gave them lots of business. I felt good about giving them business, and so that's a way that you could support. These social businesses by ordering online, having use them, and you can also contribute to some of their projects as well. I think that this time of COVID and quarantine is really teaching us an incredible lesson about thinking about ways of reaching people that we have never thought of before.
I would agree with Michael, and I would also say that it's about enhancing access, enhancing the scope of your social impact. And it's also about getting even more flexible social entrepreneur than you were before, in terms of the tools you use, in terms of marketing strategies, in terms of the products, in terms of the services, yeah, and in terms of creating social value, of course, because in time of COVID, creating social value and making social impact by it, so it's the number one question. Thank you, Michael.
Дякую, пане Майкле. Пані Оксано, яка ваш коментар буде по цьому запитанню?
Thank you, Mayo. What is your comment to that? I just had it in English.
Тоді ми будемо, власне, дякувати. І, можливо, буквально до пані...
Okay, with no questions and comments, I'd like to thank everyone and our speakers. Maybe I would ask you, Oksana, Michael, to have just very short, 1 minute long summary of what social entrepreneurs have to keep in mind 24/7. What are the key lessons for them to bear in mind forever?
Пане Майкле, прошу вас почати, пані Оксана фіналізує.
Michael, please, if you could start answering it.
Will you be first, or will allow me?
Yes, because I don't know what the question is because I cannot hear the translation, so I'm sorry. So you can start, yeah.
So the point was about why does social entrepreneur should remember or should mind social impact 24 hours a day. Yeah. Why should he be aware of social impact and mind it throughout 24 hours each day?
Well, I can start first of all, if you don't think about that 24 hours a day, then you're not really a social business, and you are then just a regular for-profit business that goes to making money and to their shareholders, which is nothing wrong with that, but then you can't claim much social value. Although many large for-profit big companies have what they call corporate social responsibility programs, which is really a way of softening a company's image to say that we give some to the community. And some, such as there's this great ice cream in the United States, Ben and Jerry's, that was started by two hippies from the 1960s of New York, and they went up to Vermont and they made delicious ice cream, and they wanted to make it socially responsible, and that they have a huge conglomerate now. They were sold to a big company that continues the social value importance of that, and they continue to have. They employ people like the director of social responsibility, the director of social value, the director of social outsourcing, and so that everything that they use in their products is either local from a farmer or is biodegradable, and then everything has a message about that. So some companies do it as a reaction to maybe something that happened with their product or product line, and others see that people spend money and they want to feel good when they spend money. So that's the secret of a thriving social business, is how do you get your customer to realize that they have a choice, and that if they buy my ice cream then or my pizza, you are helping other people. The if and the then has to be right up front, and very transparent, because we as consumers love to know how we are making an impact by just making these choices.
Thank you.
Дякую,
Thank you,
Michael.
Michael. Yeah, and just to return to what you've presented already, yeah, this nice infographics about. Щоб повернутись до того, що презентував Майкл, пам'ятаєте, там було ось 4 види
Coming
цінностей.
back to the infographics that Michael presented, social enterprise there was a combination of all the 4 types. We in Ukraine often hear that social enterprise is just about social impact. No sustainability, no financial matters, just but you see, in reality, worldwide, social enterprise is a wider notion of someone who is able, while maintaining social values and objectives, also include the customer, financial, operational values, and social values as well. Meanwhile, other commercial companies may or may not have these. So if you think of yourself as a social entrepreneur, this is what you have to be mindful of 24/7. You have to understand what are you doing, why are you doing this, what are the results, the expected results, what the impact will be for your target audiences beyond them. This is what's discovered by the social impact notion. When you look on a wider scale of this aggregate impact of everything you do, this is how the notion of social impact emerged.
Дякую. Я думаю, що це так, пані Оксано. Я думаю, тоді
Thank you, Oksana. May I thank both of you again tremendously for contributing, for being with us, for your presentation, for your motivation, for your pep talk, actually. I hope that everyone who has registered for the session will be able to have a copy of your presentation sent over to them.
дуже чимало власне акцентів під час своєї презентації ви сказали. Тому всім дякую за
And thank you for some focal points that you mentioned throughout your presentation. And with wishes of all the best, thank you again for being with us.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you, Professor CRONIN. Thank you. Дякуємо всім за участь.
Thank you, everyone, for participation.
Thank you, everyone.